3 weeks ago, this was a crisis. Today, it is a war. And as of this morning, the United States has given Iran 5 days to reopen the Strait of Hormuz, or face the destruction of its power plants. Iran says there was no conversation. Trump says there was. And while both sides argue over whether they're talking, American bombs are still falling on Tehran. This is everything that has happened, and everything that is about to happen next. Day 1 of Operation Epic Fury began on March 1st, 2026. The United States and Israel launched a coordinated strike campaign against Iran's missile infrastructure, naval assets, air defense systems, and nuclear facilities. The stated objective was simple: destroy Iran's ability to threaten the Strait of Hormuz and eliminate its nuclear weapons program before it reached the point of no return. Within 72 hours, the US Department of Defense reported that Iranian missile and drone attacks had been reduced by 90% from the first day of combat. Iran's navy had been effectively destroyed, its air force grounded, its air defense network shattered. Trump declared the US was weeks ahead of schedule, but Iran didn't collapse. It adapted. Here is where things stand right now, and what happens next. Development 1. The Strait of Hormuz crisis. The Strait of Hormuz is 21 miles wide. Through it passes 20% of the world's entire oil supply every single day. Iran closed it, not partially, not symbolically, closed it. Over 3,000 vessels are currently stranded in the Middle East, unable to move. Oil prices have surged past $108 a barrel. Global supply chains connecting Asia, Europe, and the Americas are breaking down in real time. This is not a threat. This is the single largest disruption to the global oil market in history, already worse than the 1973 embargo, already worse than the Gulf War. Trump's response was direct. Open the strait within 48 hours, or the US will obliterate Iran's power plants, starting with the biggest one first. As of today, the deadline has been extended 5 days, but the ships aren't moving, and the bombs haven't stopped. Development 2. The Power Plant Ultimatum. Trump's threat to strike Iranian power plants is not a bluff. It is a calculated escalation designed to change Iran's calculation. Iran's response was immediate. If US forces strike power plants, Iran will hit power plants across the entire region. Every energy installation linked to American interests, from Saudi Arabia to the UAE to Kuwait. Iran already demonstrated it means this. 2 waves of Iranian drones hit Kuwait's Mina al-Ahmadi refinery last Friday, one of the largest oil processing facilities in the Middle East, capable of processing 730,000 barrels per day. It is now on fire. The IRGC has been explicit. This is not the ceiling. This is a demonstration. The economic consequence of striking Iranian power plants and triggering retaliatory strikes across Gulf energy infrastructure would be catastrophic at a scale the global economy has never experienced. Both sides know this. The question is who blinks first. Development 3. Iran's ballistic missile breakthrough. Israeli air defense systems are intercepting over 90% of Iranian missiles. That number sounds reassuring until you understand what it means. Iran has fired enough missiles that even a 10% failure rate is producing real consequences. Last Saturday, Iranian missiles broke through Israeli defenses in the south, making direct impacts on the cities of Dimona and Arad, wounding over 100 people. The IRGC claimed over 200 killed. Israel reported no deaths. The truth is somewhere between those numbers. More significantly, Israel's own military spokesman acknowledged that the intercepted missiles were not, in his words, special or unfamiliar. Standard Iranian ballistic missiles are getting through Israel's most advanced air defense network. The IDF said it would investigate and learn lessons. Iran heard that statement as confirmation that its missiles are working. If this is the kind of real-time military analysis you want more of, subscribe right now. We are covering this war as it happens. Development 4. The Diego Garcia strike. On Saturday, Iran fired 2 ballistic missiles at Diego Garcia, the joint US-UK military base in the Indian Ocean, located approximately 2,500 miles from Iranian territory. Diego Garcia is not a forward operating base. It is the hub from which American B-2 Spirit stealth bombers have been conducting strikes on Iranian underground facilities throughout this war. Hitting Diego Garcia was a message: we can reach your launch platforms, not just your forward positions. Iran later denied responsibility. The denial was not credible, but the political calculation behind it was clear. Iran wanted to demonstrate the capability without fully accepting the escalation. The British government had authorized US use of Diego Garcia for defensive operations. The strike occurred before that authorization was formalized. The legal and political implications are still being worked through in London. Development 5. The ground troops question. Trump has said publicly that he will not send ground troops into Iran. He has also said he retains all options. The US is currently deploying an additional 2,500 Marines to the Middle East, on top of forces already positioned across the region. A-10 aircraft, Apache helicopters, and rapid response units are being moved into theater. The Pentagon is reportedly considering plans to blockade or occupy Karg Island, Iran's primary oil export hub in the Persian Gulf. Occupying Karg Island would not require a full ground invasion. It would require a focused amphibious operation, exactly the kind of operation Marine units are designed and positioned to execute. Trump says no ground troops. The Pentagon is moving the assets that make a ground option possible. Both things can be true at the same time. Development 6. Iran's proxy network is still active. Despite 23 days of strikes, Iran's proxy network is still functioning. The Islamic resistance in Iraq has carried out 21 attacks against US bases in the past 24 hours alone. 3 drones were intercepted near Erbil Airport. Hezbollah fired a barrage of rockets at Israeli soldiers in southern Lebanon. Houthi forces continue operations in the Red Sea. Iran's conventional military has been devastated. Its proxy architecture, the network Qasem Soleimani spent 20 years building, is still operational. This is the core strategic problem the US has not solved. Destroying Iran's navy and air force does not destroy Hezbollah. Eliminating Iran's air defenses does not stop Iraqi militias from firing drones at American bases. The head has been damaged. The arms are still swinging. Development 7. The diplomatic track. As of this morning, the picture is contradictory. Trump says the US and Iran held productive conversations over the weekend. Iran's foreign ministry says there was no dialogue with Washington. Multiple nations, Oman is confirmed to be one of them, have been passing messages between the two sides for days. The 5-day extension of the power plant ultimatum suggests something is happening behind the scenes. Ultimatums don't get extended unless there is something to preserve, but Iran's public position remains unchanged. The Strait of Hormuz stays closed. Power plants will not be negotiated. And any strike on Iranian energy infrastructure triggers a regional energy war. Both sides are talking, at least through intermediaries. Both sides are also continuing to bomb each other. This is what de-escalation looks like in a war with no ceasefire. Development 8. The economic fallout. The Strait of Hormuz has been effectively closed for over 3 weeks. Oil at $108 a barrel. Global shipping routes disrupted. Supply chains for manufactured goods, agricultural products, and industrial materials all under pressure. The Trump administration took an extraordinary step this week, temporarily lifting sanctions on Iranian oil already loaded on ships, releasing approximately 140 million barrels to the global market in an attempt to cool prices. The relief is temporary, the disruption is not. The longer the strait stays closed, the deeper the economic damage becomes. And the deeper the economic damage, the greater the political pressure on all sides to find an exit, any exit. Trump is feeling that pressure. Iran is counting on it. Development 9. The nuclear question. The Natanz nuclear facility was struck by US and Israeli forces on Saturday in what Iran's Atomic Energy Organization called criminal attacks. Whether those strikes meaningfully degraded Iran's nuclear program or merely damaged surface infrastructure while the enrichment equipment buried 90 meters underground survived, is the critical question that no public source can currently answer. US Central Command confirmed dropping multiple 5,000-pound bombs on an underground facility along Iran's coast, used for storing anti-ship missiles. The Pentagon has not confirmed what happened at Natanz specifically. Iran's nuclear program was the primary stated justification for this war. Whether it has been meaningfully set back, or whether the program survives in dispersed, hardened facilities the US hasn't fully mapped, will determine what this war ultimately achieved. Development 10. What happens in the next 5 days? The 5-day clock is running. If the Strait of Hormuz remains closed when it expires, Trump faces a choice between following through on his threat and accepting that the threat has failed. If he strikes power plants, Iran strikes Gulf energy infrastructure. Oil spikes past $130. The global economy enters a crisis with no clear resolution timeline. If he doesn't strike, Iran learns that American ultimatums have limits, and that the cost of keeping the strait closed is lower than the cost of opening it. Neither outcome is clean. Neither outcome ends this war. What is clear is that the next 5 days will determine the trajectory of this conflict for months, and potentially years, to come. 3 weeks in. Over 1,400 Iranians killed. Over 100 US service members with traumatic brain injuries. Oil above $100. The strait closed. The bombs still falling. And a 5-day clock that started this morning. We will keep covering this as it develops. Subscribe so you don't miss what comes next. What do you think happens when the 5 days run out? Does Trump strike the power plants, or does he find an off-ramp? Drop your answer below. The most accurate prediction gets pinned.